Welcome to the Toxin Terminator, helping people to restore and renew their health by removing the toxins from the home and their lives. Join in as industry thought leaders help you understand the physical and emotional effects these products can have on you and your family, and the safe alternatives you can use to remove the hidden toxins for renewed health. Now, please welcome your host, the Toxin Terminator herself, Amy Carlson.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm so glad that you guys are tuning in with this. If you haven't ever listened before, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you get notifications every time we go on air on Mondays and Thursdays. If you're watching via YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Now listen, in today's episode, if you are feeling fatigued, and who isn't in today's world? If you are depressed, if you're dealing with weight issues and you've tried everything and you just can't seem to get over those weight issues, I have the guest for you guys today. He is going to be teaching us about his 6 life-changing ingredients to unleash limitless potential. He is the world's leading nutritional biochemist and expert on health optimization. Of course, we're talking about Shawn Wells here. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me on, Amy. I love it. And I love your intro where it's like, you look like Breaking Bad, but I think it's Breaking Good, right?
It's awesome. I need to somehow I need to be able to incorporate the I'll be back from, Arnold Schwarzenegger into this.
Yes, for sure.
Well, I am really excited to really dive into kind of hearing your personal story today, as well as you've got a brand new book that is still in the pre-order mode. It's called The Energy Formula. And, as a woman over 50, this is really top of mind for me. And I'm sure it is for a whole lot of other people out there. I've got 12 grandbabies and I watch them and I think, I want to have their energy again. Right?
Yes, absolutely. And my book, well, I guess there's 2 ways I can go. I can cover my story first, I guess. So my story, what led me to create this book, what's created me in this world as world's greatest formulator, as a biochemist, as a dietitian, as a sports nutritionist, and now author. I grew up a junk food junkie in a chaotic home. I was bullied pretty badly in school for being morbidly obese and having a gynoid fat distribution, so a large rear end, which as a boy is tough. And I became very good at self-deprecation, just making fun of myself, being the class clown as a way to survive all that.
Sure.
But it took its toll over time, and I ended up not doing too well physically, mentally. I ended up doing well in school though, and I got into Babson College for a business degree. My parents, everyone around me told me just, go get business. That's what makes sense. I didn't know what my passions were. But I did start to work out and started getting in shape and using things like creatine and protein and all these new supplements I was reading about in these magazines. And I went to the doctor to get my routine physical in between my sophomore and junior year. And I was telling him about all this cool stuff and how my body was changing. And I find it so fascinating. And he drew out this lifeline for me between 20 and 80 and said, why not be happy between here and here?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. I think he just gave me permission to pursue like a life dream, like what I'm like on fire for right in front of him. And his words completely changed my life path. I ended up finishing up my degree at Babson, but going to get my master's at UNC Chapel Hill was my dream. And there's a flip side to that story. I went to UNC Greensboro so I could get all the prerequisites I needed to get my master's at Chapel Hill. It was going to take about 2 years of straight sciences, 26 credit hours a semester, which is a heavy load, a very difficult classes.
That is.
And this guy laughed at me and he said, "You're a business student and you will fail and you'll fail miserably and you're not even in that good a shape."
Oh,
And so that was a guidance counselor at UNC Greensboro. And I almost committed suicide that night with pills and alcohol. For 2 years, I had believed in this dream, like created a life around this dream. And then I felt like somebody ripped it away from me. And luckily, I did not do that. Obviously, I'm here, and it actually ended up strengthening my resolve.
yeah.
And I thought about that person every single day for the next 2 years while I was at UNC Greensboro. I didn't go out and party. I didn't do any of those things because I thought of him every single day and what he said to me. And it wasn't the healthiest thing that hate was fueling me, but
Well,
I ended up getting straight A's and getting into UNC Chapel Hill. And
oh my word. It's funny how words can either just totally tear us down or they can motivate us to say, I'll show you. I was I was an auto mechanic for 30 years. So as a woman in working on cars, it was very much I had to show, I knew what I was talking about and what I was doing. So sometimes that ridicule, that bullying, those hateful things that get said to us can be actually used in a very positive light for ourselves and moving forward, and maybe a blessing, actually in your life.
Yeah, 100%. No, and it was a difficult moment to work through, and like I said, luckily I didn't take my life,
Yeah.
but it ended up strengthening me and helping my path. I ended up at UNC Chapel Hill almost committing suicide again. I've had bouts of depression that I've dealt with a lot in my life, and I was pushing very hard, working 80 hours a week with school. And I ended up getting very sick with Epstein-Barr virus, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, Hashimoto's. I couldn't get out of bed for about 6 months with pain and inflammation. And I thought my life was over. And that's why I was considering just ending it, because I thought I'd never be what I've set out to be again.
Right.
That I'd just spend my life in bed in pain. And I ended up finding the ketogenic diet. This is about 20 years ago, and that ended up saving me. It ended up taking away my pain and inflammation. I focused on immune health supplements, and that was a massive part of my shift. And then about 8 years ago, when I was at Dymatize working my first job in R&D for a supplement company, which was a dream job. This is after I was a chief clinical dietitian for about 10 years. My dream was always to be a supplement formulator. And I got hired by this amazing company, this huge company. But again, they wanted me working 80 plus hours a week. They were trying to sell the company in 3 years. They were owned by private equity. And so the pace and the work was just frantic and relentless.
Sure.
I was blessed to have been there, but I ended up getting a brain tumor. And again, I had let a lot of my self-care go to the wayside. So I've had these check-in points with my health. I know what to do, but they also drove my research and passion to try and fix myself.
Sure.
And so that's led to so much of my self-care, my biohacking, the passion of supplements, the nutrition. And that's all what I get into in this book is I have some of my stories, but also each chapter, the energy formula is a letter. It's an acronym. So it's experiment, biohacking, bioindividuality, epigenetics and blood testing, nutrition, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, vegan, carnivore, exercise, getting into things like high intensity interval training, natural movements, blood flow restriction, intraset stretching, all these cool techniques, these hacks. Then routines. So getting into morning and nighttime routines, proper sleep habits and how to hack sleep, how to wake up, well in the morning and do gratitude journaling and affirmations and all breath work. But looking at circadian rhythm as well, and how to eat for circadian rhythm and all those things. And then growth, as in, growth mindset, like stoicism, the obstacles, the way kind of thinking. But I also get into nootropics and intermittent and extended fasting. And then the last chapter is your tribe. And it's all about connection and like blue zones and how we need people in our lives and how those relationships are so valuable. And all of those things put together are the energy formula. And in each chapter, I get into also the formulator's corner, where I go through all these different supplements, doses, and forms that you need. And then I do resource hacks in each chapter that has devices and apps and techniques. So it's chock full of like stuff you can use. And then there's surveys in there that you can look at and to base your baseline performance on that chapter, and then you're improving over time. So it's loaded with tons of stuff. I have like 60 plus full color diagrams, a couple hundred citations. Like it's loaded. And it's like 99 cents on energyformula.com as an ebook. And you get a fasting for energy guide where you learn your fasting type, and you get a hidden chapter on natural movement. All that's
okay. Now, wait a minute. Okay, we need to back up and slow down just 1 second here, because you know, and I didn't even create a banner. So energyformula.com is the website, right? So we can order it for 99 cents on Kindle right now. And we'll put that in the show notes as well. We'll make sure that we're linking into that, because this is chock full of information. And trust me, I've got questions, from each one of those pillars there. But I want to back up to your story for just a minute, if we could.
Sure.
We've got some time here. A lot of what you went through was a lot of mental, anxiety, depression, stress, these type of things. Talk to us about making that connection, or did you make a connection between your mental health and your gut health? What was happening in your gut, because you got all these autoimmune diseases very early on.
Yeah. And a lot of it, like you're saying, was I had disordered eating for a number of years. I ended up, I didn't talk about this to you, but I ended up going from morbidly obese to anorexic at one point.
Oh, wow.
And then at another point, I was orthorexic. I went from 300 pounds to 150 pounds, weighing myself after each time I peed to, and I'm 6'2". And then at one point I was 220 pounds and ripped and muscular, but I was working out 4 hours a day. I was obsessed. So at no point, was I loving myself, loving my body, or had healthy eating habits necessarily. It took a long time to figure my way out through all that stuff mentally. And to your point, like I was always achievement focused and working 80 hours a week. And I thought I got love through achievement, because I never got love well, or worked through how to love well growing up. And so it's only been more recently that I've actually worked with therapists, done plant medicine, got mentors in my life, read some great books that like I've really been able to shift mentally. That's allowed me to actually start loving myself and not just drive. A lot of the biohacks were so I could survive what I was doing to my body.
Right.
Like I wasn't building on a foundation of self-care, of self-love, and then doing optimizations. I was just trying to like live and make it.
Right. No. And so did you, you talked about, you got into what you were eating, that was kind of the first, because you did the nutritional piece of it before you went into the supplement side of things, if I remember correctly. Did you also at that time start taking notice of what you were using around you, like your environment, or was it just the nutritional side of it?
At the one point when I had the autoimmune issues, it just started with keto and then looking at immune health supplements. Before that, I was taking sports nutrition supplements, and that's
Mhm.
where my focus was. And I thought I was going to just go to school to work in sports nutrition, and I ended up working for a sports nutrition company at Dymatize. But really, when my health changed and my focus changed, then my passions around supplements began to change, like more immune health. And then, over like the last decade, it's become more about longevity.
Right,
As I've shifted, so have
right.
my passions in supplements. But I would say that no, I wasn't as good about terminating toxins maybe as you might be at the time.
Well,
And
I gotta throw that in there, right?
right, no, and the gut microbiome wasn't as well known at that time,
Mhm, mhm.
or the gut brain axis, that kind of stuff.
Right,
Like that really wasn't being talked about. Like I was just trying to have less pain and inflammation at the time.
right. But and what a journey that you went through. Let's talk about I want to talk about some biohacking tips because biohacking is a real buzzword used a lot in our industries and people are hearing that more and more today. And tell us exactly what is biohacking because I think a lot of people don't understand what it is.
Hacking your biology. So it sounds maybe dark to some when you hear hacking. It sounds like a negative term when computer hackers or criminals.
Right.
But it's a shortcut to eliciting some increase in performance in your body. That's the
Right.
idea. And in the book, I actually talk about biohacktivism. And so there's another mashup term called hacktivism, where you are hacking for the social good, hacking for activist reasons. So think of Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Anonymous, these kinds of groups that hacked for social good reasons. And so the idea of biohacktivism is that we try and increase our performance, elicit better health, and are more optimized, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. When we're heads
Mm,
up, then we connect, we can empathize, we can help those around us. So, and typically we're surviving with our
mhm,
heads down,
mm.
grinding, and we're trying to survive the day, right? And so when you're optimized, you really can be much more aware and thriving and heads up. And I feel like that allows for the world around us to be better.
Oh, this is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that in there because when you're looking people in the eye and you're smiling, I mean, sometimes it's not even about big major steps. It's just about connecting with other human beings, not putting those walls up around ourselves. And if we're going to be able to smile and connect with people, we've got to be in good health to start with, right?
Right. Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
what
You got
this is so what the world needs right now, because and here's the thing, and this is going to go on to a totally different topic, but we're so divided. We're so, there's so extremes out there in the world today. And I bet you everybody really kind of sees more eye to eye than what we think we do. And if we can just reach out and be loving to one another and what a better place it can be.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yes.
I think we're cutting out and we're buffering here, which happens, from time to time. Okay, um, bioactivism.
Bio.
I have got to. I've written. Yeah, biohacktivism. I
Yeah.
wrote this down so that we can use this. That is awesome, and understanding that this whole world is how do I want to say this? It's more important. It's not you. It's not about you. It's you know when everything is said and done, what impact are you leaving?
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm,
Um, and that's what this book really gets into, especially in like the Your Tribe chapter and towards the end. It's putting it all together so that you do have the experimentation and the biohacking and the blood work and the optimized health with nutrition and exercise and routines and having a proper growth mindset so that you can connect with the world around you, so that your tribe is helpful, so that you do have mentors around you. Absolutely.
What was your funnest chapter to write?
Probably that one. I mean, I'm used to writing like all sciencey, stuff, and I've talked a lot about supplements and nutrition and exercise. But it was probably the growth chapter and the Your Tribe one, where it's kind of like my most recent passions and like where I'm putting my life together and where I've had significant shifts. Like just finding love for myself has allowed for much deeper relationships around me.
I love that. And for those who are listening to the podcast, you got to go to the YouTube channel, because you could just see in Shawn when he started talking about this, he sat forward, the shoulders, were dropped. It just was a physical change in how you look. When you talked about that, you can really tell that that's your passion. I love that. What chapter was most difficult to write?
Probably nutrition, because there's just so much there. When I get into like how to properly do keto, what paleo looks like, what works for different people, Mediterranean, going into like carnivore versus keto, or carnivore versus vegan. I just get into pretty deep on the science of it and how to execute on it, no matter what you want to do. And I do like a Paleolithic ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting. And I also do Paleolithic ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting, but I also do cyclical and targeted ketogenic dieting. So I get into all that in there. There's definitely nuance to it. So I cover all that, and it takes a little bit to go through all that.
I love that. So I've been incorporating a 5-1-1 eating plan. So, 5 days, and I've been following intermittent fasting for quite some time. But it's 5 days of, an 8-hour eating window for me with 16 hours of fasting, then 1 day of, 24-hour fasting. And then 1 day I can either carb load or protein load is kind of a free day. But then basically following the, higher protein fats, lower carb, and I found that works best for me. And I talk about this and I share my experience because I was kind of like shamed into veganism, that I needed to eat a plant-based diet. And I did do that for about, 6 months. And my energy tanked. It just was horrible for me and my body. How do we know what's going to be the best meal plan, if you will, for each of us, or go to get the book?
Yeah, I do get into that in the book. And I think what matters is one, it needs to be a lifestyle, something that you truly stick with. It can't be some crash diet. And I discuss those terms that I do not like in there, which is cheat and diet.
Right.
You need to get away from those terms. This needs to be a lifestyle that you truly stick with. So whatever that is, start with that. I usually say, don't start with keto. Let's start with removing sugar. Let's start with then eating whole foods.
Oh, thank you.
Some kind of exercise regimen, like even just walking, especially after dinner, like after you eat, walking is very impactful to your blood sugar. And then some type of intermittent fasting. Then like once you're used to eating whole foods and you've removed the ultra processed foods and these high bliss point engineered foods and these addictive foods, and you're moving your body and you are snacking less and using some kind of fasting regimen, then you can play around with like, keto and manipulating macronutrients and all that kind of stuff.
see how that works with the body. Talk to us about the HIT, high intensity interval training, because in the certification I just completed with the toxicity, they really touted HIT training in terms of helping our body detox and really get into optimal health. Why is that?
Yeah, HIT actually upregulates autophagy. We always hear about that with intermittent fasting, or especially extended fasting. The deeper you get into fasting, the more you upregulate autophagy, which is cellular detox, or you're cleaning out the cells. When you're in that post-absorptive state, which means after you eat and you're not eating for some period of time, your body can go into rest and digest, like parasympathetic state, where it's allowed to clean up, detox, take care of the body so that it can be ready again for when it's called to action.
Okay.
And so we need to allow those times for the body to heal, for the body to clean up, for the body to detox. But high intensity interval training is an intense form of exercise where you're towards your maximum threshold. So it's very different than low intensity steady state, typical what they call slow go cardio. And that doesn't mean cardio isn't difficult. It can be very difficult, but it's at a continued pace.
Okay.
High intensity interval training is bursts. So think of like 30 seconds or 60 seconds of sprinting back to walking or jogging, that type of thing. So it's just almost full threshold, full intensity bursts. They've shown that this is much more effective for fat loss, for body composition changes. You can literally accomplish more in 6 minutes than you can in a full hour of cardio. And when your body is pushed to that threshold, that's where adaptation takes place. It's just like, if with anything, with any type of it's called hormesis. Like when your body is challenged, like through agitation comes adaptation. When your body's challenged in a positive way, then it will adapt. But adaptation really doesn't take place with typical cardio. You're burning calories, you're moving your body, which are good things, but you're not really forcing the body to like say, oh my God, we need to really change like our metabolic systems. We need to have greater buffering. We need to have greater recovery. We need to have more muscle mass. We need to have better storage of glycogen. Like we need to do all this stuff. We need more VO2 max.
Right.
How do we do all this? Because we're really pushed to the limit. That only happens at that high threshold.
Intent. I love that. And that's such a good explanation of why that really works and helps our body. Thank you for sharing that. Routines. You talk in one of your chapters about, really having good morning and evening routines. Why is that?
Well, first off, if you look at most successful people, like Tim Ferriss has looked at in his Tools of Titans, all the people that he interviewed had two things in common. They had great morning routines, and then they had like an experimenter's mindset where they believe that you win or you learn. It's not you win or you lose. And so that's something that I get into in the growth chapter as well. But with morning routines, it's so important to set the tone for the day. Instead of you waking up to a harsh alarm clock, bright lights, and then you just grabbing your coffee and a donut and rushing out the door and facing traffic and having your music cranked up and making sure you get your sugar and caffeine because you're tired. And then you go into work and then you have emails to do and it's overwhelming and people are yelling at you and you're just sinking into the day. The day owns you. You can start your day where you own the day, where you have like wind chimes come in like on an app or on a clock, that slowly get, louder and a little closer together. You can have a clock that lights up a little bit brighter over a period of time so that the chimes and the light, bring you into the day. Then you can start doing some basic breath work for a minute or two. And you can do some some gratitude, whether it's prayer or a gratitude journal or whatever. Take 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes. It's not hard.
Right.
And then, do a couple minutes of stretching. And then, and where are you at now in your day? This is like such a different day. Just starting out with some basic things. You don't have to get into like these 30-minute, hour routines. I mean, that can be great, especially if you're working out or, you're walking the dog or, you're doing some things that could be really good, listening to a podcast in the morning, educating yourself, an Audible book, whatever it is, that could be amazing.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, can you take 10 minutes to like start your day a whole lot better? And that's the start.
Well, and it boils down to choice. We have the ability to empower ourselves to decide exactly how our day is going to be. And if you don't like the way your day is going, you can always choose to restart it again. No one says that your day has to start at 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. If you decide you want your day to start again at 11 a.m., you've got that ability to do that. Agreed.
Yeah, that's perfect. Love that, Amy.
I love that. There's so many golden nuggets in this book. Everybody, you need to go get the energy formula from Shawn Wells. You can get it for 99 cents at energyformula.com. Shawn, you have been such an amazing guest, and I'm going to give you the final word here, but I've got one final question that I ask all my guests is, what would be your best toxin-free lifestyle tip?
Wow. Okay. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that I think with all the cool biohacks coming out and us heading into the future with epigenetics and I just did transcranial electrostimulation with ketamine and oxytocin and all the things I know how to do that are covered in the book. Some of the coolest things are getting back out into nature and doing grounding. Putting your feet on the ground and getting those ions from the ground by breathing that fresh air, by getting the sunshine and vitamin D, by connecting with the world and the microbiome of the world, not only the microbiome of other people, but of animals, of the ground, of everything. There's bacteria everywhere that's good for us to interact with. All these things are healthy for us to interact with. And I think just getting that sunshine, like our circadian rhythm is set by sunshine and darkness. And so getting that sun first thing in the morning, I mean, these things are very basic and are free, and we should all be doing them.
That is a fantastic tip. Thank you for sharing that. And what would you like to wrap us up with? Final thoughts, Shawn? I'm going to give the floor to you.
Well, the energy formula is something that I'm really proud of, and it is only 99 cents through April 1st, and then it's going to go up to $10. And there is a hardcover book available that's $39.99. It cost me $39.80 to make it because I did it in full color with all the diagrams, really nice print, pages, the whole thing. I wanted it to be cool. I just recorded the Audible, so that'll be coming out in a couple months. But I'm very proud of this, and I answer all these questions. If you have any questions on direct message on Instagram, I'm at Shawn Wells, and I love taking the time to help people. This has been 20 years in the making. It's everything I've learned, everything I know, and so I'm just excited. This isn't about making money. There will be no money made. I've spent a lot of money on this. But it's about changing lives, and that's what truly excites me.
Changing lives and changing the world. Shawn, you've been such a fantastic guest. We wish you much, success with your passion here, and we want everybody to go to energyformula.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of The Toxin Terminator, and we hope we've helped you remove the hidden toxins in your life for renewed health. If you're looking to continue your journey towards full rejuvenation, reach out to Amy directly by visiting amycarlson.com for your own one-on-one chat session, as well as your free toxic risk assessment. That's AIMEE Carlson.com. And remember, you are just one small change away from renewed health.